When you say Jews, you mean Judeo-Christian Alliance?
I have coined the term the Judeo-Christian Zionist Alliance encompasses the totality of this side. And that side is the Orthodox Christian world led by Russia. Yeah.
And Sheikh, is that before Dajjal or is that after Dajjal? The Great War.
I just wanted to ask you, I mean, I've been listening to you for a little while now. You've not really mentioned Surah Rahman during your talks over the course of these years. Is this a new development that you've come across, or?
Yeah, I'm writing my book on the second book on Dajjal now, and the chapters were heavy going for me, and I was getting mentally tired. So I said, let me take an easier chapter that will lie at the end of the book. So I said, let me write on the Malhama. And then I remembered that I had delivered a lecture in the island of Mauritius, I don't know, a couple of years ago. And in the process of researching for that lecture, which was on an Islamic view of nuclear weapons, I had come across this verse in Surah Al-Rahman about the fire followed by the smoke. So in writing this chapter now, I went back to the Quran and looked again at Surah Al-Rahman, and then I realized that, wait a minute, I was a schoolboy. That I had not devoted adequate time to the surah. And indeed, I still have not been able to do that because the chapter is still being written, but I'm close to completion. But what I have located while writing this chapter over the last 1 month was already enough to stun me. Yes. That here is a verse of the Quran I've recited, my teacher recited, I don't know, thousands of times. Ya ma'ashar al-jinni wal-ins, in istata'atum an tanfuzu min aqtari samawati wal-ard fanfuzu, la tanfuzuna bi-sultan. But no one had attempted to understand this ayah from eschatology, because no one bothered to ask why has Allah repeated 31 times. فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. From the time you ask the question, why has he repeated it 31 times, eventually the thick skull will open a little bit. And you say, well, who are the two people? And then when you understand that the two people are human beings and jinn, and then the surah says, well, I'm not talking about all human beings, I'm not talking about all jinn, because ayyuha thaqalan, people or human beings who are sinful, and jinn who are sinful, and they're in alliance. So it clicks. It clicks. It is that community out there, human beings and jinn in alliance with each other, both evil. And then comes your understanding, oh, they are the ones who've done with the space wars and so on. Allah allowed them to do all of that, control the skies, the seas. But the last piece of the ayah, La tanfuzuna illa bi-sultan, that is the most important thing in the whole surah. That your missiles will fly only when Allah allows it. He gives authority. But on that day when He withdraws authority, it will not fly. Yeah. And that day is coming now. I don't want NATO to know that.
Sheikh, in your opinion, why are we not hearing the eschatological opinions from the sheikhs and the ulama as you keep saying, in the Jummah and Yom al-Jummah, why is it that you stand alone, you're the front runner, the only runner? It is such an important topic. What are we lacking in terms of the other scholars? Why are you not on the platform, on the podium, with several other scholars who I could name? Why are you doing it on your own?
My first answer is I don't know why they are not prepared to come in the field. And my second answer is I don't care anymore. I'm 76 years of age, and I've been a lone voice crying in the wilderness all these years, and I'm prepared to continue until the angel calls me away. Yes.
Yes.
I have a question on riba. For example, people buy houses here, they obviously pay riba. But if you're renting, you are indirectly paying somebody's riba.
That's right.
Does it is it considered that you are still paying riba as well, or it's forgiven because you don't have a choice? You can't buy. You're trying to avoid direct riba, but this is still indirect because the person you're renting from.
I understand your question. Yes, I understand it, and the answer has been given several times already. Yeah. Our Prophet has said, alayhi salatu wasalam, that the time will come when you'll not find a single person in all of mankind who will not be consuming riba. And so there's no escape. But he's also said when there's no escape and all the alternatives are evil, you must choose the lesser evil. Obviously, it's a greater evil to go to the bank and borrow the money on interest and buy a house. That's riba through the front door. And it's a lesser evil for you to rent and pay somebody else's riba for him. This is the lesser of the two evils here.
My son's got a question.
What's your name?
Ibrahim.
Ibrahim.
Am I allowed to play games as much as I want?
Computer games. I said you'd ask the question for him. Is he allowed to play computer games as long as he wants?
Computer games.
I have never played a computer game, so I don't know what it's like. When I was a young man, I used to play cricket. A very enjoyable game, yeah. And I much prefer to be outside playing than to be inside playing. Yes, it's a lot of fun to be together with all your friends, playing cricket or playing football and so on. And it builds friendship. But if you're alone inside your room playing with only your computer, you live alone. You don't have any memories to carry with you. Yeah? I would prefer that you leave the house and go outside and meet with your friends and play games with them, yes. Maybe Daddy will buy a horse one day. Yes, and you learn to ride a horse. Yeah. Any more questions? Yeah.
Some of us didn't have the opportunity to see you when you were in Geneva. We had plans, didn't work out. Alhamdulillah, you've come here to the UK. In your past lectures, you've shown your opinions on NATO and NATO-affiliated places. What made you come to the UK now?
I have answered this question also many times. I never visited Britain for the last 16 years. I avoided Britain, United States, Canada, the Western world. But when I turned 75 years of age last year, I have a grandson, only one grandchild. And that grandchild was 3 years of age, and I'd never seen him. Never seen him. And I had been making dua to Allah, open a way, because his father and his mother were separated, and the mother would not take him out of England. So the only way I could see my grandson was to come here. So my wife was the one who insisted, and insisted, and insisted. You must go. You must go. So I mustered the courage. I didn't know what the British immigration would do, whether they send me Guantanamo or what they do. It was very, very, very dangerous. But I came because I wanted to see my grandson. When I arrived in Britain, I found that the British immigration were very courteous with me, and they created no problems for me. None. When I found that they treated me in this way, they were courteous with me, they were not hostile with me. And then I came into Britain last August, which is still not 1 year. I then found, to my astonishment, that there is an immense hunger and thirst in this country, particularly amongst young people, for the knowledge of eschatology, the end times. And I'm the only one teaching it. But more than that, I found that the graduates of the Darul Uloom in this country, the Maulanas, they also want to learn from me. They also had the same thirst and hunger in their hearts. I then realized that I had a duty, because if you have knowledge, you have to transfer that knowledge. You have to. That I should come back to Britain, but for security reasons, come on only brief visits. So I would not come for more than 3 weeks. And number two, low profile. So you'll never find me lecturing before 1,000 people. This is a nice gathering here in somebody's home. So I'm not going to ruffle anybody's feathers, create waves and so on, but low profile, yes. And so long as Allah gives me life and I have the freedom to come to this country, I intend to continue coming for short visits, and to speak before small gatherings. And you're not going to find anything program out there. Sheikh Imran Hosein is coming on a lecture tour. On this day he'll be there, on that day he'll be there. People are furious. Sheikh, I didn't know where you are. How would I know where you are lecturing? There's only one way you'll know. And that is when there's a circle who continues to pass on the information through telephone calls, through emails and so on, yes.
One question.
Yes.
Yes, Sheikh, I've been listening to your lectures for quite a while now. I'm not going to say that I've learned as much as I would like to, but there are some questions. I've interacted with people. I've tried to, on the subject of eschatology, explain to the best of my ability of what I've learned from yourself. And I found that I also now have quite a few critics now in that process. And the question is on things that are due to happen in the future, which is also someone's explaining some of these, known as prophecies. This sector of the community, of what the difficulty what I will find is that they will say that, well, these things are for us to, the things that were predicted by Rasulullah or foretold to us, are things that are way, way ahead in the future. How does that, we could fall into the danger of going into fatalism, and it's not really impacting our lives for the here and now. How do we, in the meantime, change society? How do we work ideologically to reach that goal, and how does it affect us immediately?
Insofar as your question pertains to my scholarship, the only thing I have not done so far is to go down on my knees and beg them. If you're not comfortable with me, if you're not happy with what I'm teaching, if you think I'm misguided, please don't accept what I'm teaching. There are thousands and thousands of other scholars out there. Leave me alone and go to them. The only thing I've not done now so far is to go down on my knees. I've done every single thing else. But if people are convinced that I am correct, and if they are following me, and they want to listen to me, and they have more and more appetite for me, you're going to blame me for that? That is what is happening now. I am sorry that I have to become this agitated. I don't like it. But I cannot be blamed if more and more and more people are convinced that I am correct and they are wrong. So really, it doesn't bother me. If they say that they have the right Islam and I have the wrong Islam, by all means, you stay with your right Islam and let me with my wrong Islam. Yeah. I don't want to have to return to this subject again and again and again and again. How come the other scholars are not in agreement with you? I don't want to do this. No. Let them decide how to answer that question. I'm comfortable doing the work that I'm doing. Allow me to continue, yeah.
Just, sorry, the part where I said, how do we actually, what do we need to do in order to save our souls? Sorry, maybe you've answered it already.
How do we save ourselves? I have answered that already so many times. There are many, many, many other answers. You should not turn to me alone. I have a secret to tell you. I'm not the most learned man in the world. And secondly, I have another secret to tell you. I sometimes make mistakes. So you do not put all your eggs in one basket. You do not turn to one scholar alone. Turn to others. My guidance is primarily for your children. And I'm saying, take your children, take your wives and your children out of the cities. Take them to the remote countryside and live as small communities in the remote countryside. Make sure you're self-sufficient in food and in water. And bond with each other. In the cities, they're going to fight each other and kill each other for food and water once the war takes place. But in the villages, in the countryside, if you have a bread, you'll share with your fellow villagers. That's how villagers live. Yes, you'll share with each other. You'll live as a family. Whether you're Hindu or Christian or Jew, or doesn't make a difference. Villagers will live like a family. And so there is more security for you in the remote countryside. But I've said this so many times, people fed up listening to me now. The second thing I have said is to ensure that your children are protected. From the time they reach the age of 4, they should be reciting the Quran every day. And when they start reciting the Quran, eventually they must learn to recite the whole Quran from cover to cover. By the age of 7, they should be doing that. Cover to cover, okay? They will not be understanding what they're reciting, but they must learn to recite. And they must be trained to do it every day, every day, every day. The best time to recite the Quran is when? At the time, yes. The Quran says so. At Fajr, that's the best time to recite the Quran. The second stage is when you are reciting the Quran to understand what you're reciting. And today you have Arabs who speak Arabic but cannot understand the Quran because they're speaking colloquial, Amiya. And the Amiya was created to destroy their language. That's why the Amiya was created, colloquial language. In the Caribbean, we have our local dialects. He has his Barbadian dialect, I have my Trinidadian, he has his Jamaican, he has his Guyanese, but we still know the English language. But over there in the Arab world, as they are sucked into the local languages, these local dialects, they eventually begin to lose understanding of the pure Arabic. So teach them the language so that they could understand what they're reciting. When they're in their teenage, they should be doing that. They should be understanding what they're reciting. And then comes the last stage, where you now begin to study the book seriously. And there's a methodology for that, and I have my book somewhere in the back there. Methodology for the study of the Quran. Let that book help you. Now you begin to dive down in the Quran. And you're locating the pearls that are located in the Quran. I shared some of them with you tonight. You have to fall in love with the Quran. The Quran has to become the love of your life. If that happens, then your children are protected. They can come with whatever they want to come. You would not lose your child. But if your child does not have the Quran, your child can grow up as a homosexual, as a lesbian. Your child can be involved in drugs and drug addiction and cocaine and all these things. Gambling, all these things. Fornication and so on. And you lose your child. So this is my answer to you. Is that all now? No more questions?
Sorry. In the past, you've said that Gog and Magog are Russia and the West.
I made a mistake, and I'm being constantly reminded, even though I corrected myself 8 years ago. 8 years ago, I realized that the Soviet Union was not Russia.
Okay, so
The Soviet Union had been created by the enemies of Russia to destroy Russia, to destroy its spiritual heart, to destroy the Orthodox Christian faith. The Soviet Union was an atheist state, and Russia is an Orthodox Christian state.
so who is Gog and Magog currently right now? I mean, aside from them spreading all across and everyone...
You must do your homework before you come to me. You must do your homework, which means that when you sit with me, we don't have to devote time to work that you could have already done before. I have a book entitled An Islamic View of Gog and Magog in the Modern World. And in that book we go to the Quran, and the Quran identifies who are Gog and Magog. In which surah? Suratul Anbiya. That when you see the Jews being brought back to the Holy Land after 2,000 years to reclaim Jerusalem as their own, those who bring them back to the Holy Land to reclaim Jerusalem as their own.
The British.
I don't think Britain is the only one involved. I think it's the whole of Western civilization.
But originally...
Britain was the leading state at that time, and then Britain had to give way. And the United States replaced Britain as the guarantor of the survival of Israel. Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying the West
is... There is absolutely no doubt whatsoever that the Western world, what is known as the West, or rather those who control power in the West, because there are many people in the West who oppose what their governments are doing. Those who control power in the West, they are the ones who made sure that they were able to conquer the Holy Land and remove the Ottoman Empire. And they're the ones who gave the Balfour Declaration. A British army defeated the Ottoman army, liberated the Holy Land for them. They're the ones who brought the Jews back to the Holy Land. They're the ones who transferred power to the State of Israel. And they're the ones who have supported Israel and armed Israel and financed Israel and guaranteed Israel's survival to this day. So it is as plain as daylight, without any clouds in the sky, that the Quran is saying this is Gog and Magog.
Okay, so the Malahma is between Gog and Magog? Is that the initial beginnings of the Malahma?
The Prophet said that there will be a great, great war between two people following the same da'wah, meaning the same religious preaching.
Okay, all right. So
two people.
Two Christians.
And they're going to be great, great bloodshed in that war. The Malhama will be fought between the Orthodox Christian world and the Western Christian world, allied with the Jews.
When you say Jews, you mean Judeo-Christian Alliance?
I have
Zionist.
coined the term the Judeo-Christian Zionist Alliance encompasses the totality of this side. And that side is the Orthodox Christian world led by Russia. Yeah.
And Sheikh, is that before Dajjal or is that after Dajjal? The Great War.
Again, it's a matter of homework because I have been lecturing on this subject for a long time. I have Jerusalem in the Quran, which was written 16 years ago. Dajjal has already been released on earth, but you cannot see him. He is already involved in our affairs, Pax Britannica, Pax Americana, and the Pax Judaea that is coming, Dajjal. The removal of gold and silver coins from the market and its replacement with bogus and fraudulent paper, plastic, electronic, and crypto money is Dajjal. Okay? Don't say to me, well, Sheikh, no one else has ever said that, because I'm not really interested anymore. If you're not comfortable with what I'm saying, don't accept it. Yeah, don't accept it. There are many other scholars. The Dajjal is now located at that point in his mission, where a day which is like a month is coming to an end, and a day which is like a week is about to commence, or maybe has already commenced. You understand what I'm saying? So you know about a day like a month? Good, fine. That's the hadith of Tamim ad-Dari. And the Prophet said that at the end of a day which is like a week, he's going to become his day like our day. When he is our world of space or time, this is called his khuruj. At that time he was released. In the lifetime of the Prophet, he was released, but he is not as yet in our world of space and time. That which is coming is called his khuruj. And the Prophet said that there will first of all be Jerusalem ascendant and Medina in ruins, and then there will be the Great War, and then there will be conquest of Constantinople, and then there will be the khuruj of Dajjal. So you're not going to see Dajjal until the Great War takes place. And then the conquest of Constantinople takes place. And after that, Dajjal will appear in person. Good. I have a book at the back there, Dajjal, the Quran, and the Beginning of History. That's the first book I've written on Dajjal, and I'm writing the second one now. Any more questions?
Sheikh, you know the people in power, whoever's controlling things around, are they in actual contact with Dajjal through some means, in your opinion?
فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. Why did Allah repeat this 31 times in one surah? He repeated it to tell you that they are an evil people who are in alliance with evil jinn. It is this alliance is going to explore the skies and the depths of the ocean and the depths of the earth. That's modern Western civilization.
No, I understand that, but is there any direct communication with Dajjal, with the jinn and these evil?
I'll have to ask him because I don't know. He's not told me anything. I'll have to ask him, yeah.
Any more questions from the floor? 'Cause I think it's either other. Ashraf, do you want to leave the books till after Salat or food? But there are obviously the Sheikh's books are there for sale. I don't know how we're going to go about. Are you going to deal with that side of things? Yeah.
Well, the nice thing is we are a small group, so we are okay to that. Yeah. You can come to me with the books anytime. I'll autograph them for you, inshallah.
Sheikh, if we break for food, inshallah,
Yeah.
and then after that,
I perform my salat already, so
after
yeah.
inshallah,
Yeah, I'm okay, yeah.